Good morning everyone. Hello, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm so excited to be here with you today because today we are going to be talking about my second son's birth. You can see his little head over here. He is 10 days old today. I am 10 days postpartum and I really wanted to talk to the camera and get out my me and Oki's birth story while it's still fresh in my mind, while I still remember everything. And so yeah, that is what we're gonna do today. So as you guys know, we were blessed with a beautiful son on the 18th of February he came out at 8:47 p.m. and we had a wild pregnancy and a free birth, or an unassisted home birth. The only people that were present was myself, my first son who's 2.5, Tallow, my partner Zach, and our beautiful friend Haley, who was a support for us. I want to start off this video by saying that the reason why I'm sharing my positive, empowering birth story with you is because I think it's so important to share these things. There is so much fear in the birthing world that is placed upon women and men and families, and I just think, like, when we come back to simplicity, when we come back to ourselves, when we come back to nature, to the women's body and what it's supposed to do and how it's supposed to do it, there is just an innate wisdom in us, and it's just simple. Like, birth is just simple. Please don't get me wrong, it is not simple all of the time, and I definitely believe that the medical system has its place within the birthing world, but that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about Oki's beautiful, peaceful birth, and I just wanted to start off with that. Okay, so I'm gonna set the picture for you. Basically, I was 40 weeks and 2 days roughly pregnant, and we woke up in the morning and we wanted to drive to a beach we hadn't been to before and go for a swim. So me, Zach and Tallow got in the bus and we drove to this beautiful beach. We walked down this little path and it was such a beautiful day, and I just remember feeling so grateful. And anyway, the boys went for a swim and I was like, I'm gonna walk up and down the beach because I was feeling like it was so soon that this baby was gonna come, and I kind of just wanted him out at this point. Like, I was feeling very pregnant, and I just wanted to meet our baby. So I went for a big it wasn't a big walk, it was a little walk up and down the length of the beach. And as I walked, I kind of like skipped and danced and hopped, and there was no one else on the beach but us. There was a couple of surfers out in the ocean, and it just felt like a really sacred moment for me, and it felt really beautiful. The sky was just incredible, and yeah, it was just amazing. And then I went back to the boys, we all went for a swim. And previous to this, I should say that my mucus plug started discharging when I was like 39 weeks and 6 days, so almost 40 weeks, and then like so some came out and then it stopped for like a day, and then the next day it came out, like some more came out, and then the day that the 18th of February, more came out in the morning, and I was like, this baby is ready. So yeah, that's what happened. And anyway, we get back in the car, we're driving home, and we get home and it was lunchtime. I think Tallow was asleep by this point, so he was in the bedroom asleep, and I went into the kitchen and I just started like frantically cooking, and Zach was like, what are you doing? And I was cooking like a meal I wouldn't normally cook for lunch, and I was really hungry, and he was like, what are you doing? And I think I had like this semi-fear that I would go into labor having not eaten, and because that's kind of what happened with Tao, because I went into labor with him in the middle of the night and I was shaky throughout my labor because I hadn't eaten enough food, and I really didn't want to have that shakiness to me. And I turned to Zach and I was like, I'm making lunch before I go into labor, like I need to eat before I go into labor. And Zach was like, what are you talking about? Like, he was like, you're crazy. And so I started making like this Mexican dish thing, and I ate my lunch and I ate it really quickly, and then I was like, oh, okay, like I can relax now. That would have been at about 1 o'clock. So at 2 o'clock, by this time Tal was awake, and I started feeling like quite, I'd explain it to be like quite severe period pain cramps. Like, that's what it felt like. And I was like, oh, this is new. And it was coming every 10 to 12 minutes. They would come for like a minute or like 40 seconds, and I'd be like, oh wow, this is kind of, and like, this is kind of new, this feeling. And then I said to Zach, maybe we should call Haley, because our friend Haley lives 2.5 hours away from us, and she was the person that we were going to call upon to be at the birth, to help with me or to help with Tallow or to help with whatever we needed with. And Zach was like, no, like, I don't think you're in labor. I don't want to call Haley and have her come and then like she has to leave and drive all that way back. Like, our friend also has a little boy herself, the same age as Tallow, and we were really unsure. And I was like, no, I think we should, but then like, I don't know. Anyway, Zach called our friend and she was just so excited, and she was like, I'm coming right now. It doesn't matter if Nat doesn't end up going in labor. That would have been about 2:45 or like 2:30, 2:40 when Zach put the phone down. Literally like 5 seconds after he put the phone down, I had my first like real contraction, and I leant over something in the kitchen and just like breathed through it. And then I stood up and I was like, okay, that was a sign that calling our friend was the right thing to do just then. So then from that point, Zach decided to take Tal outside and kind of just run around a little bit. And so they were just outside, and I was just kind of like walking around, being really like, I was kind of just dancing and moving, and I just wanted to be really mobile, and I also didn't have that with Tal. I wasn't mobile at all, so I was really enjoying just like walking around, doing the dishes, putting clothes away and all that kind of stuff. And eventually I went outside to see the boys, and our neighbor came over to us, and because I think Zach had seen them and said like, Nat's in labor, and they have a little girl who's 5, and Tallow and that little girl just love playing together. So she was like, why don't you let Tallow come over for a little bit, and you can come get him in an hour or so, like when things progress and you guys can just have some time. So Tallow went to the neighbors, and me and Zach were just inside, and by this point, let's say it was like 3 or like 4-ish, and things were getting more intense, but not hugely. So I was just having deeper contractions, like it was becoming more painful. I was swaying, I was holding on to Zach, or I would hold on to the kitchen bench, or I would squat or sit on the ball. We had like a fitness medicine ball thing, and just bounce on it. And I was still mostly just breathing through the contractions, not really making much noise. Or maybe I was like moaning a little bit, but nothing, you know, severe. It was just a normal afternoon, and it was so beautiful. Like, the afternoon glow that we have at this cottage is magic, and as I'd already said from the morning, it was such a beautiful day. And I just remember feeling like we were so protected and so supported. And throughout the whole labor, from when it very first began, I was saying affirmations to myself just in my head. So what were my biggest ones? I think like they were just really simple, especially when I got deeper into labor. But I think I started off with, I am safe, my baby is safe, and we are doing this together. Or I would say things like, I am strong, I am powerful, I'm ready to meet my baby. Oh, this was a big one as well that I kept saying to myself at the beginning of labor. I would say, it is safe for me to surrender to each contraction. Each contraction brings me closer to my baby, or each contraction is a divine sensation, or something like that. So Zach also had put a soup on, a really nourishing veggie soup for all of us to eat. And eventually Tal came back and had his dinner. That must have been around like 5:30. And I think our friend, now, and also let me just say that this timing is like very rough, because obviously I was in labor. If I had Zach with me, then he would be able to tell you more precise timing, but let's just go with the timing that I'm saying. So and so just before Tallow came back, I was very much still, like I was very present during the whole labor and birth. And at one point I looked up at Zach. I was just standing there swaying, and I said to him, is it naive of me to say that I'm gonna have this baby before 8 p.m. tonight? And Zach looked at me and he was like, and it was like 5 at this time, and he was like, no, like that's not naive, people have babies that quickly all the time. And then I kind of rethought about it, and I was like, 5, 6, 7, that's only a few hours away. I was like, okay, I'm gonna be holding my baby at 9 o'clock tonight. And I, at this point, was in denial that I was even still in labor, so it's funny that I said that. But anyway, Tallow came back in. Shortly after that, our friend Haley arrived, and at this point it was getting quite intense. Zach was feeling a little bit overwhelmed because I was getting quite primal, more louder in my moaning, and Tallow was being very, very sweet, but you could tell he was overwhelmed. So he would try and bring me water, he would bring me his diggers, or as I was going through a contraction, he'd run his digger up my arm or up my back because I was sitting on the ball, like up against the couch on the medicine ball. And you could just tell that he was quite nervous, and every time I'd have like Zach and him would be trying to read a book, and every time I'd have a contraction and I would moan, Tao would start saying mama, mama, and he'd just like come over and just kind of watch me and just have this really worried look on his face. But he was so sweet, and he was just amazing. Like, I am so proud of him for all that he was during that time. Oh my god, I'm gonna like cry. Yeah, he was just so incredible, and Zach was so incredible, and they were just amazing together. So anyway, our friend arrived, and I just remember hearing her, like, I remember hearing Zach say something like to Tao, like, oh, who's here? And then I remember like hearing the steps to our doorway. Like, I heard her coming up the steps, and like this big relief just washed over me. And she walked in, and I heard her greet, because I was facing the other way, so I heard her like hug Zach and hug Tal and start kind of whispering and talking, and I just felt so happy. And then she came up next to me and like said hello, and I just like started crying. Little O keeps staring. Hey monkey. So yeah, I remember, yeah, just like I just got really teary, and I wasn't full on crying, I was just kind of sobbing, and tears were falling down my face, and I just felt so relieved that Zach had more support, because he was trying to support both me and Tal, and you could tell it was getting a little bit hectic. Just, yeah, because I was getting into heavier contractions, and I was becoming louder, more primal, and I just like, the biggest thing during this birth, and probably something I didn't let go of enough during the whole labor, was I just needed Tao to be okay, and I just needed to know that. And I think I could have spent more time going inward, I suppose, but everything was perfect. It happened just as it should, and at the end of the day, Tallow was fully supported by all of us. So anyway, Haley got there, and then what happened? So then she was kind of playing with Tal, and he was really excited to see her, so they would go off into the spare room where all his toys are, and Zach would be with me, and Zach had started pushing in onto my hips, which felt so good. And then maybe they'd swap, so Zach would go with Tal, and Haley would come behind me and like tickle my back through, like when I wasn't in a contraction, and then push onto my hips. And eventually, like by this time, Zach had been filling up the birth pool for a while, which was at the other side of the house. And he had come over to me, I was on the medicine ball up against the couch, and he had said like, the pool's ready, do you want to hop in? And that was probably around like 6:30, I think. And so I slowly got up and made my way over to the pool, and I felt the pool, and it was really hot, and so I was like, we were like, oh, it's too hot, we've made it too hot. So I ended up on the floor next to the pool, kind of half holding onto the pool, half just like on all fours, and that is where I stayed the rest of the labor and birth. I didn't end up birthing in the pool. So they were trying to get some water out and then get some more cold water in, because I wanted to be in the pool. But then I just felt so comfortable on the ground, and I just kind of got stuck. So by this point it was getting a little bit later, and Tal was getting tired. He was getting overwhelmed because my voice was very much loud and even more primal by this point. And you could, you know, I'm there on all fours and you could tell he was just feeling really overwhelmed, and he just wasn't sure. He was confused as to what was going on. He's 2.5, by the way, for those of you who don't know. So yeah, basically like I stayed there until, like, on the floor until Oki came out. In between that time, Zach put Tal in the sling because it was getting towards his bedtime, and eventually Tal fell asleep in the sling. So then Zach came into the bedroom, and Hayley was with me this whole time, pressing on my hips or just like feeding me water through a straw from a cup whenever I'd ask for it, and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, Zach came and tried to put Tal down in our bed, and Tal just would wake up every time I had a contraction. So Zach ended up staying in here with Tal and just like patting him back to sleep whenever he'd stir, which was very often. My contractions started becoming sooner and sooner, and I remember saying to Hayley, like, he's like, this baby's coming, and I think Hayley was kind of like, yeah, whatever, like, it's gonna be a while until the baby comes out. And all of a sudden, like, my voice changed. I remember like holding onto the bottom of my belly and like feeling it and being like, wow, this baby is low, like it's soon. And then the other part of my brain was like, don't say it's soon, like you could be here for ages. But I think deep down I knew that it was going to be really soon. Yeah, I just stayed down there until it got to a point where Zach was in the bedroom with Tal, and he could hear the change in my voice, and he said that very much my voice changed in my groans and moans and primal sounds to even more primal. And he said he recognized the same noises that I made when Tallow was crowning and had come out 2.5 years previous. So he thought to himself, this is getting serious, like I better go out in case, because I don't want to miss it. And so he put the sling back on, and he just grabbed Tal, who was half asleep, put him back in the sling, and literally as Zach was walking out the bedroom door, I said to Hayley, his crown, like his head's there. And then she went to, like, half not believing me, looked and was like, oh my god, the head's there, and like screamed for Zach because she didn't want him to miss it. And as she screamed for Zach, he walked out. So that is like divine timing, if you ask me. And he walked out and saw that the head was coming out and quickly ran over. And yeah, I remember like I had just like that feeling of your baby like right there, and feeling his head, which is something that I didn't get to witness last time with Tal. I think I like really briefly felt his head in the birth pool with Tal, but I was like too out of it really to like have that moment. But I got that moment this time of feeling my baby's head just like crowning, coming out of my yoni, which was pretty amazing. And then I just remember like the contraction stopped, and I was like, no, I need to keep pushing, like he's right there. And then it started instantly again, and I pushed his body out, and I said to Hayley, can you catch him? And she had her hands there, and she was holding my son whilst his legs were still inside of me. So he was like very much in between worlds. And then because I felt such relief and release from like the gush of his head and his shoulders coming through, it was like, oh my god, that's amazing. I didn't realize his legs were still in there. And then I recognized that when Hayley said to me, just one more push and he's out, Nat. And so I wasn't even in a contraction, and I just kind of like pushed and he just came out. So I was kind of, yeah, on all fours, but kind of up, like I think I was holding onto the birth pool or something like that. And then Hayley just kind of passed him through me, and Zach had, at this point, was leant down right in front of me with Tal in the sling, who was awake and watching. And we all just kind of like were knelt down on the floor. I was holding Oki and we were all just like crying, and Oki let out a cry as soon as he came out. Like as soon as Hayley had him in her hands, he had let out a little cry, and we all feel like that was him letting us know that he was perfect and he was safe and he was fine. And so yeah, then I was holding him and Hayley got me a towel to wrap around him, and Tal and Zach were just sitting next to me, and Tal was just really unsure still of what was happening, and we were just explaining to him that this was his baby brother and just like talking him through it and giving him so much love. And I was just in tears, and I just remember saying like, we did it, and I was talking to me and just like purely to me and Oki in that moment, and I felt so strong and empowered and just invincible in that moment. It was truly probably the greatest moment of my life, because I would like to say that Tallo's birth was the greatest moment of my life, but this birth, my first son got to witness the birth of his brother, and we got to be there as a family of 4, and so of course that was even better. And yeah, it was just amazing. It was so beautiful. Everything happened exactly how I had envisioned it. Like, it's incredible, just like the power of intention that I put into, or me and Zach put into this birth, and how it all happened. It was truly magical, and there's truly someone watching over us, and just like helping us manifest this beautiful life that we're living. And that we, you know, of course we did a lot of work to manifest the birth that we wanted, and it was just amazing. So once he came out, Zach and Hayley helped move me to, they'd set up a single bed like next to the couch, a spare single bed, and they had put all like waterproof covers on it and sheets and stuff. And so I went and sat down there with Oki, and he just went straight to my boob and started feeding, and they got me some water, and eventually Zach just stood back up again and started kind of rocking Tao to sleep because he was still awake. And it was, so Oki came out at 8:47, so probably like 10 to 15 minutes later Zach stood up and just started rocking him to sleep. And he fell asleep super quickly, and then Zach came and put Tao down, came back out, and we all just sat around the couch. Oki was feeding and we were just talking, and after about an hour I was feeling like the placenta was needing to come out, so Zach held Oki right next to me. I just put a metal bowl underneath me, and like the placenta came out straight away. Like as soon as I was like, okay, it's ready, like I feel like it needs to come out now, yeah, I sat over the bowl and I pushed and it came out. It was beautiful, red, veiny, beautiful placenta. And then because Zach was holding him at that point, I was feeling like I really wanted to get clean. So I went and had a quick shower while Zach had him. And then I came back out and we went back on the couch, and me and Oki fed, and me, our friend, and Zach were just on the biggest high. We stayed up until midnight, I think, chatting about it all, and I think I was just sitting on the couch eating an icy bowl. And then like we all went to bed, and that was it. Something else that I wanted to mention was that the next day, our neighbour, who obviously heard everything happened, and she heard when Oki came out, she heard when he cried, she heard everything. And our neighbours had said to us, like sent us a text the next day, and then I think the day after that Zach had spoken to them, and she was just saying how in the afternoon glow, like how our cottage looked so amazing. Like it just, there was this glow around us. She said it was like there was like a bubble or something, and she said that there was this like humming vibration within the nature that was around us. And She said that even like right before Oki was born, she was outside because she was also just like on a high from listening to us give birth and knowing that our baby was so close. And she had looked outside from her veranda or something like that, and she said that it was a completely clear sky and the Milky Way was like directly underneath the cottage, sorry, on top of the cottage. And she was just saying how like there was just like this energy surrounding us, and I felt that so deeply. And then I spoke to Haley, our friend, about it, and she was saying like the same thing when she like rocked up to the house, to the cottage when she first got here. She just said it was like there was something here, and we've just felt we've just felt such a strong presence of like the divine universe around us and around this cottage since we birthed our baby boy. It hasn't left us, though it's lessened. It's not as like intense of a vibration as what it was when I was in labor, when he was birthed, or that very first next day. But I feel like it just goes to show how truly one we are with nature, and how incredibly in tune the outside natural world is to a birthing woman. It's something that I'm so grateful that we could tap into, and so I'm so grateful that we could feel, and that I could feel that presence. And I just feel so divinely guided, and just like truly birth is the most psychedelic experience I've ever had. Comment down below if you're a mama and you also believe that to be true. And like, just quickly, I've taken like some psychedelics in my life and nothing compares to the psychedelic sensation that is birth. So yeah, that's it. The next day we just hung out with our friend, and I literally just was horizontal the whole day with Oki. Tao woke up to his little brother, and he was just so loving and beautiful. He just loves Oki so much. Every time him and Zach go out, and when they get like arrive home, Tao opens the door, runs inside, comes into the bedroom, and just like jumps on Oki and like smothers him with kisses. He just loves him so much. It's so beautiful to see, and I feel very, very blessed to have two boys. Something else that I was going to say is that I was so convinced that this baby was a girl, and if you followed me on YouTube or Instagram this pregnancy, this journey, then you would know I was like, this baby is a girl. And when he came out and I saw that he was a boy, I just like, everything made so much sense to me, like so much sense. And I think I almost had this fear that if it was a boy I would have been disappointed, but it was the complete opposite of that. Like, yeah, it's just like, birth is so amazing. Having newborn babies is so special, and Okiru is definitely just like, it feels like he's always been here. It's amazing how simple and easy it has been integrating him into our lives and just flowing with that. It hasn't all been like rainbows and butterflies. There's definitely moments of, you know, like hard moments navigating a toddler and a newborn and their needs, but overall it's been friggin' amazing, and like so much better than I could have ever imagined. Something else that I think is really powerful that I want to mention is that I knew straight away as soon as as soon as Zach was holding Oki and I went to have a shower and I weed after birth, like an hour or two after birth, I knew that I had a cut on the left side of my yoni. I'm gonna have to wrap this up quickly. But so I knew that I had a cut, and so the next day Zach and our friend both had a look to see what was there, and sure enough there was a cut. It was like a graze that then as it grazed it turned into more of a deeper wound, and we were so unsure. I was like, of course, like some fear came up in me, and I was like, I should go get this stitched. I should go to the hospital and get it stitched up. And I was so unsure what to do. We were quite blessed in the sense that Zach's mum is a midwife. She lives on the other side of the country, and so we spoke to her about the cut. We also sent her a photo of the cut, and she and Zach both agreed that because it looked so like quite clean, that it wasn't anything to worry about. I didn't need to go to the hospital, and that it would heal on its own. And I just want you guys to know, or all those mamas out there who might be fearful of tearing, especially like if you're not in a medical system when birthing, this cut stung for 3 days, and I was like, over those 3 to 4 days, I was like, oh my god, I need to go get this stitched up. One day I just accepted, like it must have been the night of the 3rd or 4th day, I was like, my body knows how to heal, and the yoni is a very fast healing space, just like how our mouths are really fast at healing. And as soon as I said that to myself, I woke up the next morning and the stinging had stopped. I'm now 10 days postpartum, and yesterday when I was 9 days postpartum, I got Zach to look at the cut, and he said it had completely healed. The only thing is that it's like now a bit of a discoloration to the rest of that area. So it's like a little bit of a lighter pink, but it's completely healed. And I think that that is really, really powerful for women to know. So I just wanted to mention that, and that's it. I'm really excited to start filming as a family of 4 and keep sharing my life or our lives with you guys. It feels really sacred and really special, and I want to thank you all so much for being here and for your support and your beautiful messages over the past like few days. I recently released OAKIES birth video, so if you haven't seen that, I'll leave that here and down below so you can go to that birth video. But yeah, I just wanted to let you guys know how much I appreciate you all, and yeah, stay tuned for a postpartum video soon. I'm really excited to share that. If you have any questions about my postpartum journey or postpartum in general, then leave them down below and I'll try to address them in the next video, which might just be like a day in the life type thing. Alright guys, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already done that, because then you won't be able to miss any videos of ours. And if you haven't liked this video, then please do give it a big thumbs up, because it really helps to support our channel, helps us to get more seen. Alright, sending you so much love. Bye!